Hi, everybody, and welcome to our second live stream for my intro psych summer class. Oh, look, a cat. Right as we begin, my cat Squash comes up. Um, Look at it. How fun is that? Like, let's see how many cats we can get in here. Hopefully, you can all hear me and see me okay. Can someone let me know in the chat if everything's coming through all right? If you can hear and see me just fine. Come here, Squash. This is Squash, by the way. Yeah. My crankiest cat, but she's still here. I'll take it. All right, perfect. I'm glad you can all hear me. I told you they might come into our stream at some point, but I hope everyone is doing well, having a good day. It is the last day of May. We are in week number 2. What I want to do tonight is talk a little bit about just a little bit of feedback from last week, and then we'll look at some of the reminders for this week. Look at everyone thinks you're cute. If they only knew better. Like I said, she's my crankiest cat by far, my only girl cat. But anyway, I hope you're all hanging in there and doing well. I did grade everything from week number 1. I will talk a little bit about that, and then again we'll go over some reminders that we have for this week. So let's go ahead and go over to Canvas. And it looks like there's a bunch of you who are joining me for the first time on here, which is fantastic. If you haven't been on here before, this is Twitch. And the best way to communicate with me during this is going to be to put any thoughts or questions in the chat, which I'm monitoring, and then I will go ahead and answer them. Right? Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and head over to Canvas. And again, we are now in week number 2. So after this week, we will be halfway through our very short 4-week class that we have together. But before we talk about what we have going on this week, I just want to talk a little bit about last week. Now, again, what I did on Monday after the deadline passed is I brought all of your exam scores over into Canvas, and I also graded your discussions and your Twitch extra credits. Everything will typically be graded on Monday, as you saw this week, and then I did send out an email Monday night with some kind of general comments and feedback, and then I'll typically go over it just briefly on our live stream that we have here. And this one should be a little bit shorter since we don't have to go through the whole class. It's just looking at last week and this week. So again, we're kind of trying to keep it short and sweet, hopefully about 30 minutes or so. But I really appreciate those of you who are here with me. Thank you for being on here. There's about 14 of you at the moment, which is great. So last week you had 2 things that you turned in terms of discussions, and then you had an exam. And the discussions, honestly, they were quite good. I was really impressed for the most part, by what you put out there. What I saw at discussion 1, you were looking at nature and nurture and talking about the field of psychology. Really nicely done. A lot of you did a great job responding to the quote. The biggest spot that I saw people mess up was either not defining nature and nurture or defining them a little incorrectly. A few of you talked about nature as like plants and trees and things outside, rather than looking at like genetics and what you're born with or what is more innate. So a couple of kind of a little bit off on the nature and nurture, or just not quite giving me enough detail, but for the most part really nicely done. I also enjoyed quite a bit here. Discussion number 2, a lot of you were doing a great job talking about how neurons communicate with each other, and looking at the myth, the 10% myth of the brain. I hear this one all the time, right? That if only we could use all of our brain, and hopefully now you know it is a myth. And so I saw some really great responses there on that. Again, biggest thing that I saw for number 2 was people not quite elaborating on how neurons communicate with each other. So I was looking for you at some point to mention electrochemical communication. And if you didn't do that, you probably lost a couple of points. The other thing that I saw is there were at least a handful of you who did not reply to a classmate. So don't forget to always not only answer my questions, but reply to a classmate as well. In terms of the exam number 1 that we had last week, I hope that you found it to be really like approachable and fair. If you have any thoughts about it, you're welcome to put them in the chat. A lot of you did very, very well. The average score, I have it on here, I wrote it down. The average score was an 88%. The high was 75, the low was 43, and the average amount of time was about 59 minutes, so right about an hour. So what that tells me is most of you had plenty of time. A lot of you did very, very well. You got the exact average. That's great. That's why it's the average, right? That's fantastic. A lot of people did really well. And that makes me very happy to see. If you were a little short on time or if you didn't do quite as well as you would have liked, this is a wonderful time to kind of reevaluate. And you're going to be doing that this week. It's one of your little short assignments this week is to kind of evaluate what you're doing. But I would encourage you to always use the exams and the discussions as a learning opportunity. So if you didn't quite do as well as you would like, change something this week. Study a little bit more, study a little differently, maybe spread it out. If you didn't do the study guide, right, that might be a really big one that you could try doing this week. Do the study guide and see if that helps you. That should be a really huge help on the exam. Again, a lot of you did fantastically. So if you are happy with your score, pat on the back, keep it up. If you wish you had done a little bit better, this is a fantastic time. We have 3 more exams, so it's a good time to kind of change things up. A lot of you did the extra credit. I want to say about 15, 16 of you did the extra credit, which is amazing. That's just 5 bonus points. And if you didn't, you can pick up and start doing that this week and start earning those points this week. So what we will do is we will move on to what we have going on this week for week number 2. But are there any questions at all about week number 1? Anything from last week? Any comments, questions, thoughts, anything from week number 1 before we leave it behind? I'll wait just a second to see if anyone writes anything. And I also sent out in the announcement that went out on Monday a little video about how to find your grades and feedback. So if you're having a hard time finding your grades or finding the feedback that I gave you through the rubric or the comments, you might go back to that announcement and I made a little video showing you how you can find all that if you're having a hard time. Okay? All right. Now she's meowing behind me. I don't know. Cats everywhere, right? All right. So it doesn't look like anyone has any questions. So I'm going to move on to week number 2. Obviously, if you think of anything, put it in the chat. But this week we are looking at chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. So just like last week, we have 4 chapters that we're doing. So consciousness, learning, memory, and cognition. And consciousness is probably one of my favorite chapters that we cover. Cognition is fun because I get to talk about escape rooms in there a little bit. My birthday is next week, and I'm planning on doing my 99th and 100th escape room. I'm very excited for that. And to eat some cake, of course, for my birthday, so very exciting. But what we have this week are those 4 chapters. So make sure that you are reading the chapter in the ebook. And if it were me, I would probably start with that, but it's totally up to you. So read the chapter in the ebook, go through the lecture, and of course, watch the lecture video. The lecture videos, you might want to take notes. That's me lecturing with the content. The chapter lectures that are right here, you can just kind of read through, make sure you watch any videos that are in there. Everything together between the chapter, the lecture, and the lecture video is really going to help you with understanding the material. Someone asked, for the dream discussion, are we able to bring up part of a dream and use the theory that dreams are just meaningless as an interpretation? Yeah, if you think that the dream really reflects that dreams are meaningless, that is totally fine. It is a very valid theory of dream interpretation. And I guarantee every single one of you have had a dream where you're like, I don't think that meant anything, right? Sometimes dreams feel very symbolic and deep and meaningful, and other times they feel completely random. So you can kind of tackle that from any theory that speaks to you. Oh, and thank you for the birthday wishes. Thank you so much. Hey, that's very kind. So again, read the chapter, read through the lecture, watch the lecture video, and again, remember on these little lecture pages that I made for you that there are 5 tabs at the top, just so you don't miss that. Page 1 is objectives and summary, and you can read it or listen to it. Page 2 is beyond the book. This one has a couple of fun videos. There's one on change blindness and inattentional blindness. There's a little sleep tutorial, some stuff about nightmares and sleep disorders and energy drinks. Again, a kind of a fun, interesting chapter, one of my favorites. In pop culture, lots of movies highlighting the topic of sleep and dreams and drugs and hypnosis, right? There's just an absolute ton of them. I mentioned a few here. Key terms, these are the terms you need to know from this chapter for the exam if you wanted to study one chapter at a time. And then finally on the last page, this might be helpful for you in the discussion this week. I made a little video about how to remember your dreams. Every single one of us dreams, but we don't always remember them. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but what I did is kind of go over some tips for recalling your dreams. So if you're having a really hard time remembering them, you do need one for your discussion this week. So you could watch the video and try some of those tips. Worst case, if you cannot remember a dream, you can use an old one if you remember it, or you could even ask somebody in your life if they wouldn't mind sharing a dream with you. That is absolutely and totally fine. So again, click on all the links, watch all the videos. Anything that I put in there is going to help you do that for chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8. As usual, you will have 2 discussions and an exam this week, kind of following that similar format. The consistency hopefully is really helpful for you. So let's take a look at discussions 3 and 4 that you have for this week. And as always, you'll see at the top the instructions, my little video, and then here's the prompt, right? So don't forget that to be really detailed in your responses, to think of them as like little mini papers. Don't forget to also reply to a classmate to get those 2 points. Watch the video. I gave you some tips and little things that are helpful in there as well. And then for this one, what you're doing is you're looking at the topic of dreams. So you're going to watch my video above, which highlights some tips for remembering dreams. There's also that video in the lecture if you need more. You're going to read the little dream article. And then what I want you to do is select a dream that you had recently that you still remember with some detail and that you don't mind sharing. So make sure it's something that you're comfortable sharing. Ideally, it has nothing to do with me. If you had a dream about me, wait for another one. Somebody told me once about how they murdered me in a dream. Yeah, just pick a different one, right? But you're going to describe your dream, and then you're going to explain it from a minimum of 2 different theories from the dream article or the book. Make sure that you really describe the theories as well. Show me that you understand the theories and that you can apply them to your dream. So it's kind of 2 parts to that. And then why do you personally think that we dream? And there's no right or wrong answer. We don't really know the answer to that. But you're looking at a dream, explaining it and connecting it to a couple of dream theories that you'll also explain, and then talk about why you personally think that we dream. I tend to have a lot of dreams where I'm in cooking competitions. I'll fall asleep watching Top Chef, and then I dream that I'm competing on Top Chef, and then I remember that I can't cook, because I really can't. So I have a lot of like extension of waking life dreams. So you can use any theory that speaks to you. Discussion number 4. If we let that load here, again, my instructions and the video. This one is related to memory. And I gave you a 28-digit sequence of letters and numbers in the video right here. And what I want you to do is write about if you had to retain that 28-digit sequence and you had no way of writing it down, how would you go about doing that? How would you do it if you needed to remember it for a matter of seconds? And then how would you do it if you needed to remember it for a matter of days? And I'm really looking that you can give me a different suggestion for each. And it should be different, right? If it's a matter of seconds, you're going to have a couple of things that might work better. If it's for days, you're probably going to want to give it meaning through a couple of different methods. Yeah, you could definitely do it through a song or a story like the one that I gave you related to The Walking Dead that's in the video up here. So you're going to really highlight how could you hold on to it for a matter of seconds and then a matter of days. You're going to describe in detail 2 specific strategies, either in the lecture or the book, that you can use to help you study for exams. And then do you have any personal tips for memory that you would like to share? What strategies do you use in your life to help you remember important information? So those are the 2 discussions that you have for this week. Like always, make sure you elaborate, make sure you show off your knowledge, think about them as like little mini papers. You also have exam number 2. And remember that the exams are on the ebook site, and I've also given you a study guide just like last time. The study guide is all of the terms and concepts that you need to know. So if it's on the study guide, make sure that you are familiar with it and you know it for the exam. If it's not on here, you don't need to study it. So make sure you know all these terms from chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8. And again, if it were me, what I would probably do is type or write all of this out and have it in front of me during the exam. Excuse me. It's completely up to you. You can do whatever works for you. Again, a lot of you did quite well. on the first test. So if you did really well, you should do the same thing. If you wish you had done better, maybe try typing this out and having it in front of you. But make sure that you know everything on there. And as I mentioned last week, just a couple of quick reminders. When it comes to the exam, you have 75 minutes to complete it. You only get one attempt. So really do make sure that you're ready and organized before you begin, that you have good internet, that you've studied and you've prepared, you have a quiet place to take it. Make sure you really set yourself up for success. Make sure you save all of your answers. Again, I will never trick you on an exam, so if it seems tricky or confusing, try and read it again. Skip things if you don't know the answer. Most of you appeared to have plenty of time, but if it felt a little tight to you, remember that you can always skip questions and come back to them if you don't know the answer right away. So the exam is on the ebook site, and just like last week, as soon as the deadline passes on Monday next week, I will bring everything over. You do also have one other little component this week, and you'll do one more of these next week as well. But there's this little 5-point self-assessment. And so what I'm encouraging you to do with this, and it is worth 5 points, is to reflect on your progress in the class so far. So when you're ready, you'll hit click on this. And it's a little 5-point survey. You have as much time as you need to complete it. So let's click on it and look at it together. But there's just 5 little questions to get you to kind of think about what you're doing so far, your general approach to the class, your grades, and are you happy with it? Do you want to change anything? I'm encouraging you to reflect just a little bit. So I'm doing my part to learn as much as possible. On average, how much time are you spending? I consistently do the reading and turn in my assignments. What is your most unclear point so far? And thinking about your score on exam 1, is there anything you plan to do differently as the course moves forward? And please feel free to be honest on this. It's not going to help me at all if you tell me what you think I want to hear. So just be honest, think about your own progress and what you're doing, and if there's anything that you want to change. And if you're really happy with what you're doing, you can write that, of course, as well. So that is worth 5 points. Make sure you do that at some point this week. It is one of the assignments for this week. Sorry, it keeps booting me all the way back there. So again, for this week, you have discussion 3, discussion 4, exam number 2, and then that little self-assessment. And when we're done here, I will start the upload, download process. I will post, of course, the recording of this. Most likely it'll be posted tomorrow morning because it takes a couple of hours to upload it and download it and all of that kind of stuff. There is always a little checklist right here if you want to make sure that you've done everything that is due. Reading the chapters, reading the lectures, watch the lecture videos, complete discussions 3 and 4, take exam number 2, complete self-assessment number 1, and then there's the optional Twitch extra credit, which I will give you in just a moment. So I think those are all the reminders for this week. I do have kind of a couple of little announcements and reminders to go over with you. But before I do that, are there any questions at all about the materials for this week, about the exam, about the discussions, the assessment? Any questions at all? I can't see all of you, so hopefully you're doing fine. But any questions? Okay. I'll wait just a minute to see. While I'm waiting for you, let me give you 2 quick reminders. The first one, please take a moment and make sure that you are either subscribed or that you put your first and last name in the chat. If you haven't subscribed and you have the ability to do that, please take a moment to do it. Again, it saves me an incredible amount of time, and it's also really, really helpful for you as well in terms of the ads and a couple of other things that I mentioned last week. So if you could take a moment to do that either now or when we're done, that would be amazing. The other reminder that I have for you, if you're looking at the calendar, our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, June 7th at 8 o'clock p.m. Okay, so our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, June 7th at 8 o'clock p.m. And so I will see you all hopefully next week. So I'm just putting that in the chat here. We'll stick with 8 o'clock. I'm actually flying to Hawaii the next morning, but I will be back before the following live stream. So it doesn't affect anything in the slightest, but we will have our live stream on next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Thank you. I'm going to Oahu and I'm very, very excited. So, though it's not very hot there and we haven't really had any sun, so I'm still very white, which isn't going to be the best. I'm probably going to get very sunburned on that trip. I mean, I hope not, but probably. I can imagine it's probably going to be that I come home very red, so you can laugh at me the following week when I am very red. No, I'm going to give you the extra credit question here in just a moment. Yeah, we'll definitely go to the beach. We're going to do some snorkeling. We're going on some UTVs as well through like the Jurassic Park area where they filmed it. So I'm kind of excited about that. And let me give you the extra credit. Yes, I'm rambling. I'm so sorry. Let me give you the extra credit question and show you where you can answer that. I copied it down, so let me copy and paste that into the chat here. So one of the topics that we are covering this week is on learning and conditioning. So the Twitch week number 2 extra credit, let me put that on here. Typing and talking is difficult. Okay, so what you need to do for the extra credit is there's a clip that I would like you to watch called The Attack of the Quack. And you're going to watch this little like minute and a half clip. And then you'll identify the US, UR, CS, and CR. So you're not just defining those terms, you're identifying what they are in the clip. And this is going to be a really great practice for you for the exam and just in understanding what is probably one of the harder concepts in this class. So let me show you where you can find that video. It's in the lecture for that chapter, but if you go back to Canvas, you can find it in another spot as well. And so let me show you where you can find it. If you go into the lecture on learning, right, my lecture that's right here, the chapter 6 lecture, on the very last page where it says application, all the way at the bottom here, here's where the clip is on the attack of the quack. It's loading here. Sorry, my internet is moving slow. But it's only about a minute and a half, right? So in this clip, it's a little prank where this little boy is being conditioned. So you're going to watch this clip. And again, we're on the chapter 6 lecture on the last page of application. So you'll watch it and then you will identify the US, UR, CS, and CR. And so when you're ready to do that, you will go to week number 2, because that's where we are at, week number 2. Yeah, definitely, right? Brave New World is a really great example of some conditioning, right? They have the whole scene with the flowers and the books, right? There's quite a bit of conditioning in there. That's a wonderful, wonderful reference, definitely. It's a great example of a real life application or like a film and book application of conditioning. Okay, so here's where you'll answer that question, right? Right here where it says optional Twitch extra credit number 2. You'll click on that. And then up at the top, click on start assignment. And then this is where you will then type your response. Okay, and you can do this at any point before Sunday night. Hit submit. It's going to give you the little confetti burst and ooh, pizza as well. Very exciting. I've never seen the pizza in there before. So make sure you do that as well. That's how you get the 5 points for joining me. So not only are you watching it live, but then you answer that question. And between those two things, that's how you get the 5 points of extra credit. Or if you're watching this later and are subscribed on Twitch, then you can still get credit for joining me. Okay, so those are the big things to work on for this week. Read chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8 in the book. Read the lectures and watch the lecture videos. Complete discussion 3 and 4. Exam number 2. The little brief self-assessment were 5 points. And then if you would like to, the optional Twitch extra credit number 2. So those are the things to work on for this week. Again, our next live stream will be on Wednesday next week. I will be older when I see you next. But I hope you all have a wonderful week and that you're enjoying this like oddly cold weather that we're having for this time of year. I'm enjoying it. It feels like June gloom early, though tomorrow is officially June. So what I will do here is I will hang out for a little bit. If you do have any questions for me, if you're feeling good or all set, you're welcome to go get started. Again, please take a moment if you can to double check that status. Yeah, thank you. I'll see you before the trip, but not before my birthday. My birthday's on Tuesday, so I'm very excited. I think we're gonna go bowling and do an escape room. Have some cake. Of course, I'll have lots of cake. That's my whole plan for my birthday. Have a cake, Did I mention having a cake? So that's my plan with my kids and my partners. Some bowling, an escape room, and then uh, fajitas for dinner and a cake. Right. My oldest graduated from elementary school today, so it has been a wild day. I can't even believe it. I'm gonna have a middle schooler in my house next year, so I definitely need some cake on Tuesday to help me feel better. Anyway, I'm rambling. Again, I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for those of you who have joined me here live. I really appreciate it. And if you're watching this later, that's fantastic too. But have a great week. I'm going to minimize my video, but I will hang out for a little while. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I will see you all next week on Wednesday for our third live stream. Thank you so much again, everyone. I'm going to minimize this, but thank you. And I'll hang out for a few minutes if you do think of any other questions. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for all the birthday wishes. That's very sweet, everyone. Thank you. And I am still here. If you have any questions or any comments or thoughts or anything, you're welcome to put them in the chat. I am still here, just to let you know. If you do think of anything, I am still hanging out. Squash and I hanging out together. Thank you as well. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful week.